It's Chanuka, the original mitzvah of Hadlokas Ner Chanukah is Al Pesach Beisoy Mibachutz, at the door of the house on the outside. On the outside, it would seem that it's about lighting up the outside. It feels kind of an overwhelming task. I would say a thankless task because how could one little candle on one door make a difference? What's the idea of lighting the Neiris Chanukah al Pesach Beisoy Mi Bachutz? We have a hard enough time with Mi Pesach Beisoy Ubefnim. I mean, transforming the inside, but can we make any difference on the outside? There's a pasuk in Shir Hashirim that says, Hadudoim nosnu reach va'al psachenu kol megodim. Literally, it means dudoim. We don't know exactly what it is. It's a plant, it's a flower. The dudoim emit a fragrance. Va'al psachenu kol megodim. On our doorsteps are all, fruits. This pasuk, like all of Shir Hashirim, is a metaphor. It should be understood allegorically. And Chazal, in one of the interpretations in an obscure medrash, say as follows: Hadudoim nosnu reach ze Ruvain shehitzil es Yosef. Dudoim is a reference to the Baal Hadudoim, Ruvain, who, found the Dudoim and brought it to his mother. So Hadudoim alludes to Ruvain. Nosnu reach, how did those Dudoim give off a reach? That was Ruvain shehitzil as Yosef. And the Al Psochenu Kol Megodim, says the Midrash, is Elu Neirois Chanukah shemadlikim al hapsochim. So obviously, we're challenged to see the connection between Ruvain's saving Yosef from being killed by his brothers and the Neirois Chanukah that we light at our doorstep. So, there's a Mishnah in Masechtes Bava Kama. It's one of the only references to Chanukah in the Mishnayos. The Mishnah says, Hiniach chenvoni neiroi mibachutz. If the grocer put his candle outside his store, I guess before they had streetlights, it was a way to maybe attract attention to his store. But he was Hiniach chenvoni neiroi mibachutz, chenvoni chayiv. The chenveni is responsible for damages that were caused by that nair that was outside. If a camel passed with flax on and it was ignited by the nair, the chenveni is responsible for the damages. Chenveni chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'ner Chanukah potter. Rabbi Yehuda says that if it was Chanukah and he lit his ner Chanukah outdoors, he's potter. The idea being that on Chanukah the nizik should have watched himself, because Chanukah everybody lights on the outside, and therefore the chenvoni is not responsible. No, so there's a Kabbalistic reading of this pasuk, of this Mishnah, that says as follows: that chenvoni is the oisius of Yochanan, and this alludes to Yochanan Kohen Gadol, who was Shimesh Shmoinim Shana B'Kahuna Gedoyla, Ulebesoif Nase Tzedoiki. So the Gemara tells us in Brachas Daf Chav Tes that Yochanan Kohen Gadol became a Tzedoiki. Now, since he became a Tzedoiki, he was Hiniach Neiroi Bachutz. What does that mean? There was a machloikis between the Tzedoikim and the Prushim. That's recorded in Yoimo Daf Nun Gimel, where to light the Ketores. In other words, the Tzedaikim held that the Ketores should be lit outside, and should then be brought into the Heichel when it's already smoking. So Chenveni shehidlik neiroi bachutz is Yochanan Kohen Gadol who became a tzedaki, and he lit the Ketores outside, like the sheet of the tzedaki, and therefore Chenveni chayiv in the sense that he's chayiv mischayiv benafsho. He's guilty. But Rabbi Yehuda says bener Chanukah potter, that through the ner Chanukah that came about through Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. There's a discussion in the Shail Teshuvas Tashbatz. Chelik Gimel Kuf Lamed Hey learns that this Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol is that Kohen Gadol Yochanan that L'soif Naset Tzedaki. So in any case, when Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol lit the Neres Chanukah, so that made his father potur, because bra mezaka abba, sometimes the son could redeem his father, and Rabbi Yehuda Omer bener Chanukah potter, that through the ner Chanukah, Yochanan Kohen Gadol became potter for lighting the Ketores outside. No, avada, this is Nestoris Lashem Elokeinu. We don't really know, what this means, but I will share with you what my father Zechron Levracha said, that in the end of the Sugya in Yoima, it says like this, that the machlokes between the Chachmei Yisrael, HaPrushim, and the Tzedaikim, and how to do the Ketores, was that the Prushim held that Yisakein v'yadlik bifnim, that you prepare it and you light it inside, whereas the Tzedaikim held that Yisakein v'yadlik bachutz v'yachnis bifnim. In other words, the Tzedaikim held that as soon as you come into the Heichel, you should already be Mekayim the mitzvah of V'chisa anan haktoires es hakapoires. What is the mitzvah of Ketores? That the cloud of the Ketores should blanket the kapoires, the cover of the Aron. So you mesakein and you madlik bachutz. When you come in, it's already male oshon, which means that the tzedaikim held that the preparation, the hechsher, the means is something that you should do in your own territory. What you do inside is just the consequence, the result, the bottom line, the tachlis. And therefore they held that only the halas oshon should be befnim, but the yisakein and the yadlik should be bachutz. Whereas the Prushim say yisakein v'yadlik befnim, which means you prepare it and you light it inside, meaning that the effort, the preparation, is also bakoidesh, is also holy. This could be connected with the tzedaikim say in the Mishnah in Makis Daf Hey, the tzedaikim held that Eidim Zoymimim hargu neherogin, loy hargu ein neherogin. If the psak was carried out and the accused person was executed, then the Eidim Zoymimim get killed. But loy hargu ein neherogin. If it wasn't carried out, the Eidim Zoymimim are not punished. Whereas we hold faket hargu ein neherogin, loy hargu ein neherogin, kasher zamam v'loy kasher asa. So you see that we hold that the effort makes all the difference. It's enough that you wanted to, you tried, you made the effort to kill him, and you're Eidim Zoymimim, and you're punished. Whereas the tzedaikim held that the effort doesn't count. I mean, you tried to kill him. That's not something that is punishable. What's punishable is only the hargu. So by the same token, the tzedaikim hold that the yisakein, the yadlik, should be outside. It's not part of the avodah. Whereas we hold that the yisakein, the yadlik, is part of the avodah, even though the tachlis is v'chisa anan haktoires es hakapoires. Yeah, the Mala Oshon, but nevertheless, the Yisaken and the Yadlik is also b'fnim. So those that know that Lafum Tzara Agra, that the reward is according to the effort, understand that the effort is also holy. And not only that, we know that it's not like the ends justify the means, but Adrabah, the means give the quality to the ends, because it's lefum tzara agra. The more the effort, it uplifts, it raises, it gives significance, it gives meaning to the end. In other words, it's not that the end defines the means, but to the contrary, the means are what define the end. So we say Yisakim v'yadlik b'fnim. Now, in our Gemara, it says that they found one pach shel shemen, v'lo hoya boy lahadlik elo yoim echad. And we all know the Beis Yosef is, so if they had for yoim echad, so why do we celebrate the first day? But in the Sheiltas, it actually says, v'lo hoya boy kedei lahadlik afilu yoim echad, that there wasn't enough oil even for one day, which obviously undoes the question of the Beis Yosef. But if that was so, that there wasn't even enough for one day, so what did they light it for? I mean, l'chora in Pachas Mikashir, there's no mitzvah at all. Why did they bother and light the menorah? So we must say that they recognized that the ikir chiyuv of a person is not to achieve the goal, not to arrive at the consequences, but to make ishtadlus as far as he can. So even when it seemed like they wouldn't be able to bring about the result, they didn't hold back from doing the bit that they can. Like the Mishnah says, Lo yolecha hamalocha ligmor, you're not required to complete the task, or maybe it's not up to you to complete the task. But the ein ato ben chayrin lipoter mimena, you're not free to withdraw from it. In other words, one should try and do as much as he can. And therefore they lit with a bit of oil that they had. And through that effort, through that honest effort, so they were zoiche. They merited that, as it says in the pasuk, lokel goimeir olai, that sometimes the Rebbeinu Shalom fulfills for me. Yeah, but they did the beginning, and then Hashem yigmor badi, Hashem completes for me on my behalf. So minoisa kankanim nasa neis lashishanim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought about the Gemara. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying b'nei Chanukah pot. In other words, the lighting of the Neiros on Chanukah by the Chashmonoim is a tikkun, is a correction for the chet of the Chenvani, Yochanan Kohen Gadol, who became a tzedaki, and he lit the Ketores outside, because by lighting this little bit of oil, that loihoya boy kedei lahadlik afilu yoim echad, the Chashmonoim was saying, Matasyo ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol was saying that the ikir is the effort, and applying the means to the extent that you can, even when the result doesn't seem to be attainable, and which is the opposite of the shita of the tzedaikim that hold yisakein v'yadlik mibachutz. The tzedaikim lit the Ketores outside because they held that the means, the effort, is not holy at all. I mean, it's all about reaching the consequence. And Matasyo ben Yochanan taught us that vice versa. What's most important is to do what you can and not to accomplish. And therefore we find, Taka, that in Eretz Chanukah L'Doros, we say Hadloka Oisa Mitzvah, and not Hanocha Oisa Mitzvah. We say Kovsa Ein Oizakuk Lo. If it's distinguished, you're not bound to attend to it. You don't have to relight it. Kovsa Ein Oizakuk Lo. Even though Avada, the tachlis of the hadlaka, the goal is pursue nisa, which only happens by the ner being doluk. But the point is that the consequence, the result, is in the hands of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Lo yalecha malacha ligmar. The person's chiyuv is to be mishtadel and to light, and more than that, he can't be held responsible for. Lo yalecha malacha ligmar ve'ein ata ben chorin lipotim b'meno. That's the idea of kaf sein eizokuklo, which is rooted in the fact that the original hadlaka of the Chashmonoim was a hadlaka where they couldn't even count on reaching the consequence. Now, this we also find in Ruvain's Hatzalah of Yosef. The pasuk says, "Vayishma Ruvain vayatzileu miyodam." Yeah, Ruvain heard and he saved Yosef from his brothers. L'chora, I mean, how can we say that he saved him? I mean, all that he did was that instead of killing him, they put him into a bar, but that bar was a bar reik ein by mine. And even if we'll come back later to get him before he dies of thirst, but Chazal tell us that mayim ein boy, aval nechoshim va'akrabim yesh boy. Being that what Ruvain did doesn't seem to be hatzalah. It's only that the Rebbeinu Shalom brought about that immediately came along the Yishmael and the Seichim, the Midyanim, and the whole thing was really a miracle. So how could we attribute the saving of Yosef to Ruvain, who only got him into a bar? But that's the pshat. Ruvain saw that he doesn't really have a way to fully save Yosef. But nevertheless, he didn't despair. He knew that even if that lo yalecha malacha ligmar, the ein ato ben chayrin lipotim imenu, that you should do the bit that you can do. So he didn't give up, and he did what he could do at that moment is to save him from a sure death, and he didn't give up, seeing that how much of a chance is there. He did what he can, and therefore he was zoiche that Hashem yigmor badi. He was zoiche that lekeil goymer alai, that the Hakadosh Baruch Hu was mesavev kol hasibas, that Yosef was really saved, and we attribute this hatzalah to Yosef, who did the bit of ishtadlus, even in circumstances where it didn't seem that it was going to lead to a hatzalah. Yeah, and Reb Reuven Zelig Tarragon once pointed out that he showed me that that is a Tshuvas Ksav Sofer that expresses this idea in Siman Kuf Lamed Vov in Orach Chaim. In any case, so this is what the Medrash is saying. Hadudoim nosnu reach ze Reuven sheitzel as Yosef va'al psochenu kol megodim elu neres Chanuka shemadlikim al psochim. Meaning, the dudoim nosnu reach, that is the fragrance that Reuven brought about. Meaning, Reuven just did a small pu'ula of hishtadlus to save Yosef, even though it didn't seem like it was going to lead to the end result. But we say that Reuven was hitzelas Yosef. That's Hadudoim nosnu reach ze Reuven sheitzelas Yosef al psochenu kol megodim elu neres Chanuka shemadlikim al psochim. L'zeicher, the neres that we lit minoisar kankanim, even though it was loy hoya boy kedei lahadlik afilu b'yoyim echad. So in both these things, you see how the hishtadlus brought about the consequence beyond the rules of nature, because if one does the bit that he can do, the Rebbeinu Shalom brings about the consequence. And be'emes, this is true about the milchama also, because, as the pasuk says in V'zois HaBrocha, Mechatz Mosnayim Komov, Rashi says, Yud Beis B'nei Chashmoinoi Ve'elazar Neged Kama Revovis. So it was 13 Jews that stood up against tens of thousands. So they were ma'atim against Rabin. And these ma'atim were also chaloshim. as we say, Giborim b'yad chaloshim. And as it says in the Shira of Chana, it says, Keshes Giborim Chatim V'nichsholim Ozru Chayil, that the Keshes of the mighty is broken. Yeah, the bow. And while the floundering are girded with strength. So what does the Targum say? That this is about the Malchus Beis Chashmonoi. They would the Beis Chashmonoi, the Havun Chaloshin, Yisavdon Lahoin Nisin Ugvuron. So it was Ma'atim, it was Chaloshim, and nevertheless, they did what they can. And by doing what they can, the little bit that they can, the Rebbeinu Shalom finished the job. Lo yolecha amalocha ligmar ve'einata ben chern lipotim imenu. So as the pasuk says, "B'tach b'Hashem v'asei tov." Yeah, that you have to do the good even when you need a lot of bitachon to believe that it's something will come of it. Yeah. So Chazal say, "Eishes poitifar l'shem shamayim niskavna, sheroasa b'itzter lugin shelo, she'asida lahamid banim mimenu." That she will share descendants with Yosef, ve'einena yoidas imimena imibita. So she thought that really it was meant to be that she should be with Yosef because she saw in the stars that asido lahamid banim mimenu. So they say the Chidush Yorim brings from the Rebbe Baruch Mezhebeshet that he said that just like she was in Skavan L'Shem Shamayim because she saw what she saw in the stars, Avada Yosef also saw that he says Bevadai LeYosef Hoyu Dimyonis Shezer Etzoin Shamayim LaHagdal HaNisoyin. He says that Avada Yosef also saw that he's Osid Lahamid Toldois Mimeno, and he also didn't know how it's going to happen, and therefore that made his Nisoyin so much greater. But what really is the essence of this vort? I think the essence of this vort is that since Yosef saw, as he says, that this is going to happen, so he knew that as much as he's going to try to stay away, he's not going to succeed. In the end, he's going to fall. But Yosef understood the importance of Chayei Shah. Just like we Machal Shabbos for Chayei Shah in Gashmias. I mean, there's Chayei Shah in Ruchnias. Yeah, put it off a little. And do the best you can. Even if you can't succeed, do as much as you can. And therefore, and then the Rebbeinu Shalom would say it was Nizgala, that the whole thing wasn't meant to be, and it didn't happen, and he was Zoiche that to become who he became. So, we say that Hakol B'dei Shamayim, Chutz Me'ir Shamayim, which means that sometimes, what's going to be and what's not going to be is really not up to you, but your attitude, your approach, your hishtadlus, your effort, that's always in your hands, like they say. People think it's a Maimon Chazal, but it isn't. But it's the truth that ein lecha davar ha'omed b'fnei haratzon. There's nothing that stands in the way of ratzon, which means that sometimes there are many things that stand in the way of accomplishing something, but there's nothing that stands in the way of wanting. Right? Ein lecha davar ha'omed b'fnei haratzon. A person could always want, and that is really what defines who and what we are. The pasuk says, "Vayomer Shmuel umeh koil hatzoin hazeh ba'oznai, v'koil haboker asher anochi shomeh, vayomer Shol me'amoleki hevium, asher chomal ha'om al meitav hatzoin v'haboker leman zvoyach la'Hashem Elokecha," etc. Vayomer Shmuel hachofetz la'Hashem ba'olos uzvochim kishmoya b'koil Hashem, hine shmoya mizevach toiv lahakshiv michel avela. Now, what does it mean? He saved the tzayin of Amalek to bring karbonos. He tells him, listen, hachefetz la'Hashem ba'olos, hine shmoya mizevach toiv. What's good about a zevach? It's only the shmoya. Does the Rebbeinu Shalom have anything from the actual zevach? The pasuk says, "Reach nichoyach laHashem." Rashi says, "Reach nichoyach laHashem." Shamarti b'nasir etzoni. All that comes out of the zevach, what's toiv in the zevach is the shmoya. What's good in the chaylev eilim is only the lahakshiv. Hine shmoya mi zevach toiv. Lahakshiv mi chaylev eilim. And therefore, if you're missing the lahakshiv, you're missing the shmoya, you accomplished nothing. No, the pasuk really says in Daniel, the pasuk says, "Va'omad al kanoi ma'avir noiges hadar malchus ubiyamim achodim yishover veloy ba'apayim veloy b'milchama." In other words, "Va'omad al kanoi ma'avir noiges," there will rise in his place one whose glory of kingship is the overthrow of the oppressor. He's a ma'avir noiges. Yet, in a few years, it will be broken, but neither through the enemy's wrath nor through war. So who is this talking about? Rashi says, "V'omad al kanoi ma'avir noiges v'yischazek al besisoy bahar hamoidoim Matisyo ben Yochanan hamavir noiges Yovan me'al Yisrael." He removed the oppressor Yovan. Matisyo ben Yochanan. V'hu hadar Malchus Yisrael. He's the glory of Malchus Yisrael. Kisar v'gibor yiyahu v'chol zarei achrov b'nei Hashmonaim. However, ubiyomim achodim yishover. Biyomim mu'otim tishover malchusam. Their malchus fell apart. V'loy ba'apayim shel umma acheres. It wasn't the wrath of another umma. V'loy b'milchama. It wasn't a war. Ki mehem u'bohem asher yikanu aristoblus v'hurkenes al dvar hamelucha. In other words, it fell apart from the inside. So you see, this Malchus Beis Hashmonai that we celebrate, like the Rambam says, Chazir Malchus Yisrael, 200 years, right? It really didn't last. It was, as the pasuk says, biyomim achodim yishover. So really, the ganze Malchus Beis Hashmonai was a kavsa. But we say kavsa ein zakuklo. Yeah, that the pshat is, it was what it was for when it was. And it actually had an everlasting effect on the history of our people. So sometimes you even see a consequence, and then you see the consequence fall apart. And that could be a reason, to throw in the towel, like they say, and to give up. But we say no. Malchus Beis Hashmonai teaches us that kafsa einay zakuklo, that the pshat is that you do what you can for as long as you can. If it doesn't last, it doesn't last. Lo yolecha hamalacha ligmar ve'ein ato ben chayrin lipoter mimenu. Yeah, so that's what we're saying. Yeah. Rabbi Say, I think we're going to wish you a lichtig and freilich and Chanukah und a guten Shabbos.